Okay, babies, and we're rolling. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kate. I'm your big sis in Christ. I'm here to share with you my walk with God, everything He's done for me, how I've healed from multiple traumatic experiences in my life, and how I am a new creation in God. So on this channel, you'll find all of those content. I'm an educator, a life coach, and honestly, just a child of God living my best life. I think this is a really important video, and I want to share my walk with God and how far I've come with Him. I was not born a Christian. I was not born into a Christian household. Parents are not Christians. I first came into contact with Christians when I was a teenager in high school, or in Singapore it's secondary school. Some of my classmates had invited me to church. I don't really have a lot of recollections or clear recollections of my childhood or my past. I can only share with you the bits and pieces that I remember. I was invited to church by a couple of girls who actually used to bully me. And it's really funny because I didn't feel like I fit in. I went to church and I was really confused, like people were praying in tongues. I think I visited 2 different churches. I tried making friends there because as a teen, I was very socially awkward, didn't have a lot of friends, and I just thought this would be a great way to fit in. And I remember going to church and just feeling lost, confused, and I didn't really understand what was going on. There was a lot of social drama that happened, and I actually stopped going to church. In my recollection of this, I remember my sister knowing Jesus and God first. Honestly, I always say this, I'm a Saul turned Paul, because when she told me that she came to Christ, I actually took a Bible and I threw it on the ground and I was like, don't tell me about your God, I'm not interested, He's not real. And looking back, I must have been a really hurt individual to say such things, because even in my youth, I remember moments where I was going through a really hard time, whether it's depression or just like a hard time in the family, and I'd be crying on my bed and I would say to God, like, if you are real, help me. If you are real, show me who you are. If you are real, just come speak to me. Just looking back on hindsight, like I'm getting goosebumps, like He's been with me every single step of the way. I first really started going to church and knowing God by an ex-partner of mine, and this was about 11 years ago. I started going to church, and honestly, like the first time I stepped into church, I felt really welcomed. Like everyone was saying hi to me, welcoming me, talking to me. This time around, like when I stepped in, I think like I still remember the first few months, I was kind of blown away by the desire that everyone in church had for God. And I was just so curious and hungry to know more. I was like, they're worshiping God and they love Him so much. You can just feel this overwhelming sense of love. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I would say like 11 years ago, I was still a really lost girl. I was still looking for approval. I was still looking for belonging. I was still looking for myself. And to come to church at that point in time, I think I just really wanted to fit in again and to be like everyone. And I wanted to know, is there a higher purpose? Is there more? And in the first 2 years of starting to come to church and really just going into that church life routine, having a cell group, just making new friends, I think 2 big things really happened for me that developed my walk with God. Like the first thing was going to a huge Christian conference, and at that conference, I saw people being healed. I literally saw people going on the stage, and I remember a young girl, she had her legs, like one was actually longer than the other, and she was born this way. And after prayer, like her other leg, like the shorter leg, grew out, and you could literally see that they were down the same length. And what hit closer to heart was the partner that I was with at that time. He had been going through a really rough physical patch. He had an open wound that had been bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and we had seen like 2 to 3 different specialists, and there was just nothing that they could do for him. And I still remember he told me like, okay, today I went up to the altar call, and an altar call is, when the pastor calls you up as a sign of a step of your faith to show God that, hey, I'm willing and I'm here. He stepped up and he told God, if you heal me, I will start going to church again. And you know what? Like that, 2 days later, he was absolutely healed. And it was mind-blowing for me because it had been months and we'd gone to the doctor and nothing had happened. That was encounter number 1. And the second thing that really was so personal to me and changed my walk with God was when I decided to go on a mission trip. Because honestly, if you know me, your girl has a soft heart, and I was just like, okay, I'll go do some good in the world, and I really just want to go and see what's out there and how I can help other people. I did not grow up in church. I did not know how to sing worship songs. I did not know how to pray. I mean, I was literally like shaking in my boots. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do there. I'll just do whatever I can to help out. God used me, this girl who had no experience or past with him, to heal people. I didn't know how to pray, and they just told me, go lay hands on people and pray with them. I never read the Bible. I was just like, okay. They were like, ask God to heal this person, and we'll just go from there. So I healed 2 different people on that mission trip. The first one I'll always remember was this really old grandma who was deaf. I still remember. We laid hands on her. I had another friend who prayed with me, together with me, for this grandma. And you could see on her face the moment she could start hearing, like her face lit up. And in my mind, I was like, this cannot be real. Like, this deaf grandma can hear again. This cannot be real. Like, I'm getting goosebumps all over again. Like, this just blew my mind, okay? And then the second thing was, I was going to pray over this man who had, most of his life dragged himself across the floor because his legs wouldn't work. And I felt so convicted that I just sat there for, I think, half an hour, just like laying hands on him, praying for his leg. Because when I walked past him, I felt such a tug and I felt such a pull. And if you know me in my past, I feel really uncomfortable with men. At that time, I felt really uncomfortable with men. So for me to pray for a man, I think that was like a step of faith for me. And so I prayed for him, and I continued to pray for him. And after like 30 to 40 minutes, he told my pastor in Tagalog that he could feel his legs again. And I still have this video. If I have it, I'll insert it. I still have this video that my pastor sent to me. And this was, I think, the week or 2 after I had prayed for him, and he could now walk. Like, he could now walk. And when I saw that video, I just started crying, because who am I that God would use me? Who am I, this unworthy person with no knowledge, no background knowledge, that God would use me to heal people? I think that just blew my mind, and I think that trip in itself, my first mission trip, was also the start of God healing me, because I still remember on the last day of the trip, we had this really famous missionary. He came and preached at church in Marikina, and he spoke on the orphan spirit, because he had been going around the world helping out with orphanages and building orphanages, and he spoke about the orphan spirit. Wow, I could feel my heart burn, because it was then that I realized that I had been living with an orphan spirit. I felt so abandoned and lost and hopeless and just floating with the world, looking for validation from men. And that sermon, that sharing, like, I went up to the altar and I started weeping. I think that was the start of the journey of God healing me from my orphan spirit. Yeah, just recollecting that just gives me so much joy and gratitude because of how far I've come with God. That's how I met God, and I think that was the start of my journey with God. I'm looking at my handphone because I just want to read some verses as well throughout this video. And I think, like, in Psalms 107 verse 2, it says, "Let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story, those he redeemed from the hand of the foe." I think that throughout my years of walking with God and how I've grown, he has redeemed me from my pain. He has redeemed me from my suffering. He has redeemed me from the enemy. He has redeemed me from my fear. And I'll keep telling you why. In the years that followed after that Marikina trip, honestly, I'm human. I am flawed. I am weak. I didn't really read the Bible much. I still doubted how to pray, and I still remember many times in my walk with God in this first and only church that I ever knew, I still really wanted to be seen. Like, I would go out for altar calls and people would walk over me and not pray for me. I would just so desperately want for God to send me a sign, or for someone to pray for me, like, give me a sign, God, let someone like step up and like tell me like the big vision and the big lofty dream you have for me, and that never happened. And time and again, I felt overlooked and overlooked and overlooked. But now looking back, I realized that that was not me wanting God and not me desiring God, but me wanting the world to see me and me wanting the world to recognize me. And I think this all came to a climax when I went through the deepest, darkest moment in my life during COVID, when COVID began. So this was about 3 years ago. I had been married to my partner, and I was with this partner for about 11 years in total. And what had happened was that he had disappeared from the face of the earth, and like no one had any idea where he went. This had been a build-up of his really horrible addiction. He had been stealing from me, and just my marriage was in shambles. And he disappeared, and I honestly had no one to turn to. I didn't know what to do. I had loan sharks knocking at my door asking me for money that I had not borrowed. I was completely lost. And this was when COVID happened and the lockdown happened, and I was just left all alone. And in my shame and in my guilt, I did not turn to the people who loved me. I didn't turn to my parents. I think I carried a lot of shame and guilt because of the lies that I had been gaslit with, lies that people had told me about myself. And so during that time, I really had to turn inward. I still remember I would be crying every single day. I didn't know what was going on. And there was a day where I was just weeping on the floor in the middle of the night. And God bless my neighbor's souls, hearing me wail. When you are so overcome with sadness that just nothing else matters. Like, I was on the floor and I was ready to give up on my life. I was ready to just be like, I'm done. It is too hard and I don't want to do this anymore. And if you've been there, I am with you. And I know how devastating it can be when you feel like your whole world is about to end, and being on that floor, crying and wanting to give up and wanting to die, literally, I called out to God. I called out to Him and I said, God, like, where are you? Can you just help me? Like, I vocalized that out, and I tell you, for the first time, I really felt the presence of God with me. And He gave me such a huge hug, and He told me that it will be okay, and I am with you. I am with you, and I am with you. The next morning, when I woke up, I decided that I want to live, and I want to keep going, and God has a plan for my life. Okay, but it's not like you wake up and you're like la-di-da and the world is great, right? You still feel so overwhelmed and stuck and sad. And the only thing I could do from that day on was to pick up my Bible and read my Bible every single day, because I knew that man will fail me. I am imperfect. Everyone is imperfect. Man will fail me, but the only person I can depend on is God. And I did not want man to stand between me and God. I wanted to have a direct relationship with God. And so I picked up the Bible and I said, I'm just going to start reading the Bible, and I'm just going to start hearing from God. And every single day from that point on, the Bible fed me. Like, I just read it and read it and read it. There was a deep hunger that came out that I had never had before in my life. And I just kept reading the Bible. And every single day, He would give me new life. He would give me new mana. He would just give me new strength. And He would speak to me through the Bible. And it was in that darkest moments in time where God really, really showed up for me. Okay? I am a foodie, and my love language is food. If I love you, I will give you coffee, I will give you pastries, I will feed you. And that is exactly what God did. I still remember, so we were in lockdown in Singapore, and I was just craving for bubble tea, okay? An ignorant bubble tea lover that loves drinking bubble tea at 0% sugar with extra pearls, okay? And I was like, I just feel like having bubble tea, but like, if you're alone and you order 1 cup of bubble tea, that shit ain't worth it. So I decided not to order bubble tea, and then lo and behold, the doorbell rings. I open it and there's bubble tea at my front door, and I realized, I look at the order and I'm like, oh my gosh, it is the wrong address. The delivery guy delivered it to the wrong address. I just look at the order and I'm like, this is my order. This is how I would order my bubble tea. It's my favorite oolong tea, 0% sugar and extra pearls. And so I put it in the fridge and I waited for the delivery guy to come back, but he never did. I promise you guys, I did not steal anyone's bubble tea, but the delivery guy never came back. It was just 1 cup of bubble tea. And there we go. That was my bubble tea. Okay. A couple of weeks later, I had a durian craving, and I was like, there's only one of me. I cannot eat a durian by myself. I'm not going to go buy it. It's in the middle of COVID. Like, I don't want to get sick. And then I have a friend who immediately messaged me, and she's like, hey, someone's giving me durian, and I don't eat durian. Can I gift it to you? I was like, okay, sure. So he really just showered me with little blessings. He sent the right people my way. Like when I was alone in the middle of COVID, I had a friend who ended up needing a place to stay. I offered her my space, and the two of us ended up living together during that time. And I really made a sister. Like I found a sister in her, and I'm so grateful. And so like since that day forth, like in my darkest moments when I reached out to God, He answered me and He came for me, and my life has never been the same since then. Yeah, and I just want to read from Psalms 107:19-21, and it says, Then they cried to the Lord in their trouble, and He saved them from their distress. He sent out His word and healed them. He rescued them from the grave. Let them give thanks to the Lord for His unfailing love and His wonderful deeds for mankind. And in Psalms 32, it says, Lord my God, I called to you for help and you healed me. I called out to Him and He answered me. I called out to Him and He has never let me down. I call out to Him time and again, and His hand has always been with me. And since COVID, I've gone through a lot more healing and a lot more hardship, and I've had to wrestle with God through a lot of different things, including my divorce, including decisions that I've made in my life. But let me tell you, the one thing that I have come out of it with is a new identity. And in 2 Corinthians 5:17, it says, Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed. Behold, the new has come. And in Psalms 147:3, it says, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. And I believe that God can do that for everyone and anyone. I'm not here to preach the word, honestly. I'm just here to share with you my walk with God. And these two verses hold such meaning for me because if you knew me in the past, if you saw what I looked like in the past, you could see how broken my spirit was, how lost I was. You could see it in my puffiness. You could see it in my eyes. I just didn't love myself. I didn't know my true value. I didn't know who I was. And now today, as I am a few days away from turning 37, I have energy. I soar like the eagles. I am a new creation. I am planted in the house of the Lord. I am flourishing. I am stronger than I ever was. I am fit. I climb, and no one would have said that I am an active girl because I could not do push-ups. I was a weak girl. I could not run 2.4. I always failed my physical test. Like, I was not fit. God really gave me a new identity. He stood with me in my hard times. He healed my heart. He showed me who I really am. He showed me how He made me to be. He showed me that He loves me. He showed me that I am His child. And every single day I live with such magic from God that sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, my life just keeps getting better and better and better and better. There is no day where I think to myself, oh my gosh, I miss the time 5 years back. Never. That has not been my life. It has just gone up and up and up, and every day I am just grateful for everything that I've gone through. I don't even feel I would turn back time and cancel out the bad things that have happened in my life because they have shaped me, and God has used that to mold me into who I am today. I just feel so much love and gratitude for my God that I wanted to share my journey with you. So today, I want to say that my perspective on what it means to love God and have a relationship with Him has changed. I mean, I think the term Christian or Christianity is just a term, and it really, whether you go to church or not, I mean, it matters, but what matters more to me is if I or if someone else has a deep relationship directly to God. And what this means is, do you talk to Him regularly? Do you speak to Him? Do you share with Him your frustrations, your joy? Do you give thanks to Him in the morning? Do you read His word? Do you know who He is? Do you trust in Him? Do you see Him in all the little moments in your life? If the answer to that, any of those questions, is no, but you really, really want to know him, then I hope that I can help you know him more. Because just don't see how it would be possible for anyone without hope or who's in a dark place. I just don't know how I would survive without God. He is my light and He is my salvation. Only with Him do I have true strength. Only with Him do I have true life. So, yeah, that's my journey with God, and hopefully I'll be able to share more of it with you in the videos to come. If you need a prayer, if you just need someone to talk to, if you have any questions for me about my walk with God, you can DM me. I am Hello Kate Tan on Instagram. Everything else will be in the description box below. But sending love and light, and I love you guys. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in my next video. Sayonara carbonaras!